The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the sidewalk outside Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in West Hollywood as Ozzy Osbourne slowly made his way toward the parking garage. At 75, his gait was more measured than in his younger days, but he still carried himself with the quiet dignity that had come with age and sobriety. He had just finished a routine checkup with his neurologist, part of his ongoing treatment for Parkinson's disease, and was looking forward to a quiet evening at home with Sharon. What should have been a simple walk to his car became something entirely different when he heard the commotion from across the street. At first, it was just raised voices, but as he paused to listen, he could make out the distressed cries of a young woman and the aggressive shouting of multiple men. His protective instincts, honed by decades of looking out for fans and fellow musicians, immediately kicked in. Across the busy street, outside a small medical clinic that specialized in addiction treatment, a pack of 6 paparazzi had cornered 19-year-old Emma Rodriguez. Emma was a college student from a working-class family in East LA who had been struggling with prescription drug addiction following a car accident that had left her with chronic pain. Today marked 6 months of sobriety, and she was leaving her weekly counseling session feeling proud and hopeful about her recovery journey. If you're enjoying this incredible story, please subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. It helps us bring you more amazing content like this. But Emma's path to recovery had an unexpected complication. She happened to be the daughter of Maria Rodriguez, a housekeeper who worked for several A-list celebrities in Beverly Hills. 3 weeks earlier, Maria had witnessed something she shouldn't have seen at one of her employer's homes. A major celebrity in the midst of what appeared to be a serious drug binge. Being an honest woman with strong moral convictions, Maria had quietly reported what she saw to the appropriate authorities, believing it was the right thing to do. The story had leaked somehow, and now the paparazzi were desperate to get Maria or her family to provide details, photos, or any information they could sell to the highest bidder. When they couldn't reach Maria, who had wisely gone into hiding, they had tracked down Emma, following her to her counseling sessions and trying to pressure her into talking. "Come on, sweetheart," sneered Rick Valdez, the leader of the pack, a man in his 40s with greasy hair and an expensive camera slung around his neck. "Just tell us what your mum saw. We'll make it worth your while. $5,000 for a simple statement." "I already told you. I don't know anything," Emma said, her voice shaking as she pressed herself against the clinic's brick wall. "Please just leave me alone." "Your mum's got to be talking to you," pressed another photographer, a thin man with a patchy beard who reeked of cigarettes. "Family sticks together, right? Help us out here, and you could pay for college. Maybe buy your mum a nice house." "She doesn't know anything," Emma repeated, tears starting to form in her eyes. "And even if she did, we wouldn't tell you. Please, I just want to go home." But the paparazzi weren't backing down. They had formed a semicircle around her, their cameras ready, knowing that even her distress would make for saleable photos. They were like vultures circling prey, and Emma was trapped. "Look at this girl," Rick said to his colleagues, loud enough for Emma to hear. "Coming out of a drug clinic. I bet there's a story here too. Maybe we should be asking about her problems instead of her mum's secrets." Emma's face went white. The last thing she wanted was for her recovery journey to become public knowledge. She was working so hard to rebuild her life, to make her family proud, to become the person she knew she could be. The thought of her most vulnerable moments being splashed across tabloids was terrifying. "Please," she whispered. "I'm just trying to get better. I haven't done anything wrong." That's when Ozzy heard the word clinic and saw the genuine fear in the young woman's face. Without hesitation, he looked both ways and began crossing the busy street, his famous cross necklace catching the sunlight as he moved with more speed than his age and condition would normally allow. "Oi!" he called out in his distinctive Birmingham accent, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had faced down much worse than a pack of opportunistic photographers. "What's going on here then?" The paparazzi turned, and for a moment they couldn't believe their luck. Ozzy Osbourne, one of the most photographed and pursued celebrities in rock history, was walking directly toward them. Rick's finger immediately moved to his camera's trigger. "Holy shit, it's Ozzy!" one of them shouted. "This is our lucky day." But their excitement was short-lived. As Ozzy got closer, they could see something in his expression that made them step back involuntarily. This wasn't the confused, sometimes addled figure they had seen in paparazzi photos over the years. This was someone with purpose, someone with barely controlled anger, someone who was not going to be intimidated. "I asked you a question," Ozzy said firmly, positioning himself between Emma and the photographers. "What are you doing to this young lady?" "Just trying to get a story, Ozzy," Rick said, trying to sound casual, while simultaneously snapping photos. "Nothing that concerns you." "But hey, since you're here, want to comment on—" "Put the cameras down," Ozzy interrupted, his voice quiet but carrying an unmistakable threat. "Now." The paparazzi exchanged glances. They knew Ozzy's reputation, both his wild past and his more recent reputation, as someone who fiercely protected his family and friends. But they also knew he was older now, dealing with health issues, and they outnumbered him 6-1. "Come on, man," said the thin photographer. "We're just doing our job. Public sidewalk, public figures, First Amendment rights. You know how this works." "Public figures." Ozzy's voice rose slightly. "She's 19 years old, you vultures. What makes her a public figure?" "Her mum works for—" Rick began. "Her mum works for a living," Ozzy cut him off. "That doesn't make this girl fair game for your harassment." He turned to Emma, his expression softening immediately. "Are you all right, love? Did they hurt you?" Emma shook her head, but the tears were flowing freely now. "They won't leave me alone. They keep following me, asking about my mum, trying to get me to say things. And taking pictures of you coming out of a medical facility," Ozzy added, his anger returning as he turned back to the paparazzi. "Do you have any idea how illegal that is? Do you understand the privacy laws around medical treatment?" "She's not our patient," Rick said defensively. "We're not on private property." "You're harassing someone seeking medical treatment," Ozzy replied firmly. "That's a federal crime under HIPAA laws, you ignorant wankers." What happened next surprised everyone, including Ozzy himself. Instead of just chasing the paparazzi away or calling security, he did something completely unexpected. He sat down on the sidewalk next to Emma, right there on the concrete, and pulled out his phone. "What are you doing?" Rick asked, confused by this sudden change in behavior. "I'm calling my lawyer," Ozzy said calmly, speed dialing a number. "Hello, Michael. It's Ozzy. I need you to get down to the corner of Beverly and San Vicente immediately. I've got 6 photographers here, illegally harassing a 19-year-old girl outside a medical clinic." "Yes, I said medical clinic." "No, she's not a celebrity." "Yes, I'm sure that's illegal." The paparazzi began to look nervous. Ozzy Osbourne had some of the best entertainment lawyers in the business, and they all knew it. "Oh, and Michael," Ozzy continued, making sure to speak loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I want you to call the police as well, and contact the medical board about photographers stalking patients. And maybe give TMZ a call. I think they'd be interested in a story about paparazzi breaking federal privacy laws." "You can't do that," Rick protested. "We have rights." "So does she," Ozzy replied, standing up and offering Emma his hand to help her to her feet. "The right to receive medical treatment without being harassed. The right to privacy. The right to be left alone when she's done nothing wrong." "But the story," one of the other photographers began. "There is no story," Ozzy said firmly. "There's a young woman trying to get her life together, and a bunch of bottom feeders trying to profit from her family's honesty. That's not news. That's predatory behavior." Emma looked up at Ozzy with a mixture of gratitude and amazement. "Why are you helping me? You don't even know me." Ozzy's expression softened again. "Because I've been where you are, love. Maybe not the exact same situation, but I know what it's like to be vulnerable and have people try to exploit that vulnerability for money. I know what it's like to be struggling with addiction and have every moment of weakness become public entertainment." He turned back to the paparazzi, who were starting to pack up their equipment as they realized this situation was not going to end profitably for them. "Let me tell you something about this young lady," Ozzy announced loudly. "She's fighting a battle that takes more courage than anything I've ever done on stage. She's working to overcome addiction, which is one of the hardest things a person can do. She deserves respect, not harassment. She deserves support, not exploitation." "Ozzy, come on," Rick tried one more time. "You understand the business. Sometimes we have to push a little to get the story." "I understand the business," Ozzy replied coldly. "I also understand the difference between business and cruelty. What you're doing to this girl is cruelty, pure and simple. Just then, Michael Sullivan, Ozzy's lawyer, arrived in a black Mercedes, followed closely by two LAPD patrol cars. The situation shifted dramatically as the officers approached. "Officers," Ozzy said, walking over to meet them. "These men have been harassing this young woman outside a medical facility. They've been following her, intimidating her, and attempting to force her to provide information about her family." The lead officer, a woman in her 40s who clearly recognized Ozzy, nodded seriously. "Sir, we'll need to get statements from everyone involved." "Of course," Ozzy agreed. "Emma, would you like to tell the officers what's been happening?" For the next 30 minutes, Emma gave a detailed account of the weeks of harassment she had endured. The paparazzi tried to defend their actions, claiming they were just doing their jobs, but the officers were clearly unimpressed by their explanations. Photographing someone entering or leaving a medical facility with the intent to identify them as a patient is a violation of federal privacy laws, Officer Martinez explained to the photographers. "You're looking at potential federal charges, not to mention local harassment and stalking charges." Rick's face had gone pale. "We didn't know she was a patient. We thought she was just visiting." "You followed her here from her car," Emma said quietly. "You've been following me for weeks. You know exactly why I'm here." As the police sorted out the legal implications, Ozzy pulled Emma aside for a private conversation. "How are you holding up with all this?" he asked gently. "It's been really hard," Emma admitted. "I was doing so well with my recovery, but having these guys following me around, trying to get me to betray my mum's trust, it's been triggering some really dark thoughts." Ozzy nodded with understanding. "Recovery is hard enough without having vultures circling. Have you got a good support system?" "My family, my counselor, my group, but this situation with my mum, it's put a lot of stress on everyone." "Listen to me," Ozzy said, his voice gentle but firm. "What your mother did, reporting something she saw that was wrong, that took courage, and what you're doing, protecting her privacy while fighting your own battles, that takes courage too. Don't let these parasites make you question whether you're doing the right thing." Emma wiped her eyes. "It's just so hard. I feel like I'm letting everyone down." "You're not letting anyone down," Ozzy assured her. "You're 19 years old, you're 6 months sober, and you're standing up to people who are trying to exploit you and your family. That's not letting anyone down. That's being a warrior." He reached into his wallet and pulled out a business card. "This is my personal assistance number. If these photographers bother you again, if anyone bothers you about this situation, you call that number immediately. I've got resources, I've got lawyers, and I've got enough influence to make their lives very unpleasant if they don't leave you alone." "I can't accept that," Emma protested. "You've already done so much." "You're not accepting charity," Ozzy replied. "You're accepting help from someone who understands what you're going through. I've been clean and sober for over a decade, and I know how hard it is to maintain your recovery when the whole world seems to be watching and waiting for you to fail." He paused, looking directly into her eyes. "Promise me something. Promise me you won't let this derail your progress. Promise me you'll keep going to your sessions, keep working your program, keep fighting for the life you deserve." Emma nodded, tears flowing again, but these were different tears. Tears of gratitude and hope rather than fear and desperation. "I promise," she whispered. By the time the police finished their investigation, 3 of the paparazzi had been arrested on harassment charges, and the others had been issued citations and restraining orders, preventing them from coming within 100 yards of Emma or the clinic. Rick, the ringleader, was facing potential federal charges for HIPAA violations. As the scene cleared and Emma prepared to go home, Ozzy made one final gesture that nobody saw coming. He walked over to his car and returned with a black leather jacket. Not a costume piece, but something personal and well worn. "This was my daughter Kelly's jacket when she was going through her own struggles with addiction," he said quietly. "She wore it to every meeting, every counseling session, every day she needed to feel strong. She asked me to pass it on to someone who might need that same strength." Emma took the jacket with trembling hands. "I can't take this. It must mean so much to your family." "It does," Ozzy agreed. "That's why we want you to have it. Kelly is 10 years sober now, and she believes in paying it forward. This jacket is supposed to go to someone who's fighting the same fight she fought. Someone who needs to know that recovery is possible, that there are people rooting for them, and that their life has value beyond their worst moments." Emma slipped the jacket on. It fit perfectly, as if it had been waiting for her. "There's one more thing," Ozzy said, pulling out his phone again. "I'm going to give you my personal number. Not for emergencies with paparazzi, for emergencies with recovery. If you ever feel like using, if you ever feel like giving up, if you ever need to hear from someone who's been there that it gets better, you call me, day or night." "I can't believe this is real," Emma said, shaking her head in amazement. "It's real," Ozzy assured her. "And so is your recovery. Don't let anyone or anything make you forget that." The story of what happened that day spread quickly, but not through the tabloids that had been pursuing Emma. Instead, it spread through recovery communities, addiction treatment centers, and social media platforms where people shared stories of hope and healing. Emma became an inadvertent spokesperson for the rights of people in recovery to privacy and dignity. She started a blog about her journey, always wearing Kelly's jacket in her photos, and her story inspired thousands of other young people who were struggling with similar issues. The paparazzi who had harassed her faced significant consequences. Rick lost his press credentials and was banned from several major agencies. The incident became a case study in journalism ethics classes and led to stricter enforcement of privacy laws around medical facilities. But perhaps the most important outcome was the friendship that developed between Emma and the Osbourne family. She became a regular at their family gatherings, a surrogate daughter who reminded them all of the importance of reaching out to others who were struggling. 2 years later, Emma celebrated her second anniversary of sobriety with a party at the Osbourne home. She was thriving in college, working part-time at an addiction treatment center, and had become a powerful advocate for the rights of people in recovery. "You saved my life that day," she told Ozzy during her anniversary speech. "Not just from the paparazzi, but from the darkness that was trying to pull me back down. You showed me that there are people in this world who will stand up for someone they don't even know simply because it's the right thing to do." Ozzy, surrounded by his family and this extended family of people whose lives had been touched by addiction and recovery, felt a deep sense of satisfaction. This was what his platform was really for. Not just entertainment, but genuine human connection and support. "You saved yourself," he replied. "I just helped remind you that you were worth saving." The incident became part of rock and roll folklore, but more importantly, it became a reminder that true strength isn't measured by how famous or powerful you are, but by how willing you are to use whatever influence you have to protect those who can't protect themselves. For Emma, that day outside the clinic marked the beginning of not just continued sobriety, but a life dedicated to helping others find their way out of the darkness. She never forgot the man who had sat down on a sidewalk next to a scared teenager and shown her that she wasn't alone in her fight. And for Ozzy, it was confirmation that the second act of his life, the part after the wild stages and headlines, could be even more meaningful than the first. Sometimes, the most important thing a legend can do is remind someone else that they have the potential to become legendary too. One day at a time, one choice at a time, one act of courage at a time. Thank you for reading this incredible story of compassion and protection. If it moved you, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. It helps us continue sharing stories that remind us of the power of standing up for those who need it most.